Kota was walking to school and on the way, he met an attractive girl. They looked at each other and fell in love literally at first sight. One day he was walking to school and this girl came up to him and started hugging him. They already knew each other, but were not that close. The girl said that Kota should be able to fight back and say no. Akane was a prefect and couldn't accept the fact that students were being obnoxious in a public place, especially those from her class SS. During the lesson, he remembered this situation and blushed. The teacher noticed this and made a remark, but the whole class said that he had only obscene thoughts in his head. During recess, the girl often approached the guy, but he asked her not to hug him. Then she unbuttoned her collar. Everyone in the hallway was shocked by this, and Akane protested again. But the girl simply took out a leaflet with an invitation from her clothes and gave it to the guy. He read that Chizuru would be waiting for him in the evening in one of the offices. When he arrived, the girl immediately kissed him on the lips. It was the guy's first kiss and he was blushing and embarrassed all the time. Then he saw that the girl now had fox ears and a tail. When she noticed it, he initially said it was cosplay. But she realized that the guy didn't believe her and admitted that almost all her life she had been forced to walk in the guise of a person. And she told him that if this bothered him, then he would no longer have to communicate with her. However, he was not embarrassed by such things and did not refuse to communicate with her. He thought she was beautiful, and these words made Chizuru very happy. She jumped on him and began hugging and touching the guy. But at that moment Taira burst in and stopped her. He said that it is dangerous for spirits to live among people and show themselves to them. The girl did not see anything wrong with this and kissed the guy. After that, she disappeared and all that was left of her was her clothes. But in fact, she simply inhabited a person and could control him. This happened because they kissed, and thus she was able to take possession of the guy's body. But before that they also kissed, but she didn't do it. Taira explained that this could only happen if he opened his heart, which he did the second time. The girl in the boy's body took her spiritual power into her hand and hit Taira, causing him to fly out the window. She then came out of his body and said that the closer they were, the more her power would grow. She fell in love with him at first sight and believes that it was fate. While they were on the road, the girl constantly hugged Kota and pestered him. The guy didn't like it because other people were looking at them. But the girl didn't care, she loved him. And in the end, the guy simply ran away from her. In the city, he saw a girl eating near a food stall. The seller told her to pay for the food since she had already eaten quite a lot and had not paid for a single order. Kota came and paid for the girl himself. While the seller left to give the change to the guy, the girl approached Kota and thanked him. She then sniffed the guy and said that she would remember his smell, and then left. At night, lying in bed, he thought about the spirits and people who could surround him. It could be anyone he meets. And in the morning, Chizuru came to Kota and lay on top of him. He woke up and was shocked by her visit. The girl was dressed in a nightgown and lying in her bed. On the way to school, the girl again started pestering him and running around the guy. Finally, she couldn't hold back any longer and pressed herself against him. He began to object and say that everyone was looking at them. But the girl erected a barrier around them, and no one else could see or even hear them. When Chizuru had already taken off her clothes, the same girl whom Kota helped passed by and destroyed the barrier, and now everyone could see them. The schoolchildren saw this and began to look at them disapprovingly. Almost the entire school saw them. Already in the classroom, the head teacher began to scold Kota and call him preoccupied. Chizuru started defending him and yelling at Akane. But at some point this girl ran up and attacked Kota. Chizuru, there were not very good rumors about the guy, and the head girl was convinced of them. Others stood and looked at them, some even laughed at this, watching as the girls tried to share the guy between themselves. Her name was Nozomu Azumori, she was a wolf. When she was introduced, she shooed one of the guys from the table to sit next to Kota. She hugged him and sat there for most of the lesson. When Kota was in the bathroom, a fox came in and decided to swim with him, and the guy became shy and ran away from her. At that moment, Nozomu came in and she also wanted to join the guy. But Chizuru didn't like it, and they again began to fight for the guy's attention. The guy watched their fight and was very nervous. At school, the school principal noticed his condition and advised him to see a doctor. He walked over to the nurse and she allowed him to lie down. Lying on the bed, he quickly fell asleep. He dreamed of a wonderful place and felt at ease. Then he looked back and saw that they were lying next to each other. And it was not a dream. They began to hug him and again fight for his attention. At that moment, the headman came to his room to look at his condition and saw this situation. She began to scream and curse, but the guy was already so nervous that he received a shock. In the morning, Chizuru came to Koto's house again and immediately prepared him breakfast. After breakfast, they went to school and the guy said that he really liked the food. But the girl admitted that she couldn't cook at all and was ashamed. But the guy rushed to console her and praise her for the food. On the way, they met a she-wolf, on which Kota fell. But she just ran away to school, and the guy was very embarrassed. Lisa was very angry that she was interfering with her and Koto. At school, this girl was still sitting with him and Chizuru approached her again to investigate. But in order not to fight anymore, they decided to compete in other matters. Both girls prepared food for him and gave him a taste. The judges were other participants, and they were interested in watching this performance. Each wanted him to try her dish first, but he could not decide and tried two at the same time. But he felt nothing and fell from his chair. Kota was poisoned and ended up with a nurse. After he left there, the girls were still asking who had the better dish. The guy didn't answer anything intelligibly, and the next day the girls fed him food again and the poisoning story repeated itself. One day the girls actually brought a live crab and fish. Kota did not like the noisy and defiant behavior of Chizuru and Nozomu, but he did not dare to say all this to their faces. Then Akane came up to him and said that he should tell everything if he doesn't like it. Otherwise, there is simply nothing to do but endure it further. In class, they started arguing again and the guy told Chizuru that he would be angry if the fox continued to behave like this. The girl heard him and ran out into the corridor. Akane motioned for him to run after her, and he did so. They went into some office and there the fox said that he wanted to be punished. The guy agreed to help her with this and punished her with his hand. They had a physical training session that day, but Chizuru jumped on Kota and knocked him down. She didn't want him to go anywhere, so she sat on top of him. But at that moment Nozomu ran up and hugged Kota. Chizuru didn't like that this wolf pestered Kota all the time and the girl was very jealous. She was thinking of a plan to make sure that only she would have Kota. Her brother Taira Minamoto jokingly suggested brewing a love potion. But the girl took the matter seriously and decided to look for one in a closed class with magical artifacts and things. She didn't stay there long and immediately found what she needed. It was something that could help her in her relationship with her partner. But after using it, it turned into a real problem and she immediately turned to Kota. It was a bunny costume and now it magically doesn't come off. The guy was shocked and embarrassed when he saw her, but could not help her. The director found out about this and was angry that they dared to enter this room without permission. But after learning about the problem, they decided that this would be her punishment while they looked for a way out of the situation. The girl had to wear this costume for some time. As she walked down the corridor, everyone looked at her and said different things, from insults to flirting and dirty talk. This completely hurt her, and she fled to Kota, with whom she felt safer. Kota even began to defend her from everyone and say that she was not like that at all. This made the girl very happy that he was protecting her. That day she stayed overnight at Kota's because she couldn't return home like that. She reached into the closet to get things out, but noticed Nozomu there. She wasn't happy about her coming, but then everyone else fell from the ceiling. The next day, while they were walking to school, Chizuru passed out on the way to school. There she was taken to the school nurse and it was suggested that the suit had robbed her of her vitality. After all, it was created by a woman who went to another world wearing this costume. Akane was there and decided to cut the suit if the girl couldn't take it off. But as soon as she touched the fabric with scissors, she immediately dressed in a nurse's outfit. Some strange force lifted Akane up and her body began to levitate until she sat on the table. When people arrived, they saw the situation and were shocked. Chizuru then took off herself and began flying around the school. Along the way, she turned the girls' clothes into costumes and this became a problem. Her friends ran after her and met all these girls along the way. And then they even saw the director, who was in a suit and clearly not happy with it. No matter how people tried to sort things out and solve the problem, they failed. After all, as long as the suit is intact, the problem will remain unresolved. The girl was then taken to the gym, where her clothes were turned into a wedding dress. The spirit wanted to support his plans and desire to become a bride. But Chizuki only wanted to wear this dress in front of Kota, so she tried to take it off. But she immediately fell to the floor because her vitality was practically zero. At that moment, Kota ran into the hall, but the spirit stopped him and did not allow him to approach them. Kota ran up and the evil spirit said that he still wouldn't help her take off her dress, and then he kissed her on the lips. Thus, the fox was able to move into the guy's body, and the dress remained on the floor. They worked magic together and were able to defeat the evil spirit with one blow. After he left, everyone in that school wore the same clothes, and thus the problem was solved. Nide, Chizuru and Kota decided to be alone again. The girl put up a barrier again so that no one could notice them. But at the most inopportune moment a man came and said that this barrier was unreliable. This is Saku Yazumori, he came here with his sister. But the girl was not happy about his arrival. They decided to talk in the dining room and sort things out. Before leaving, he put some kind of bracelet on Kota's hand and said that it was a souvenir. During class, the girl tried to take it off, but it didn't work. The guy fell on top of her, and Chizuru thought that he would be more comfortable in this position. She tried to take off the bracelet again, and when he saw the girl standing, the guy got a headache. Chizuru decided to find out what kind of bracelet Saku gave the guy. He replied that it hurts him every time Kota experiences lust and may end up leaving for another world soon. To save his life, Saku suggested that Chizuru become his girlfriend, then Kota would not be harmed. She didn't agree with him and didn't want to become his girlfriend at all. but she didn't want anything to happen to her beloved guy. And at the same time, she had to distance herself from Kota. He came to school and everyone was even surprised that Chizuru was no longer pestering the guy. It was completely unlike her. She followed him everywhere and even sometimes called him, but could not approach him. The girl felt so bad that she even got bored with her favorite activities or things. The last straw was that the guy came to her house, but she could not open the door for him. Then she decided to go and fight this wolf, although he was much stronger than her. Her brother and the other foxes didn't care about her life, so they tied up the girl and went to fight the wolf instead. But he was too strong and defeated all the foxes quite easily, although they tried their best. The girl was still able to get out of captivity and ran straight to the place where the battle was taking place. Kota was sitting in class at that moment, and Nozomu said that she heard her brother howl. When Chizuru ran to the battle site, Saku was holding Tairyu. The girl told him to let his brother go to the ground, and he obediently obeyed. He asked her about her decision to become his girlfriend, but the girl replied that she would never be with him. She decided that she would fight with him and the guy agreed to her terms. At this time, Kota and Nozomu ran up to the two opponents. When Kota found the girl, she was almost defeated and the wolf sat on top and watched. He began to go to the guy to finally win this battle. The fox told Kota to leave, but the guy at that time began to support the fox. Then they kissed and became one. Sokka wasn't happy about this, but he didn't want to give up either. Together they defeated this wolf with one blow. Here he himself considered it necessary to admit defeat and left them alone. The guy only came to see Chizuru, so he had nothing else to do. He immediately got ready to leave. Nozomu did not go with him and wanted to stay with Kota, and Sak did not interfere with this. In the morning they woke up together and when they went to school it started snowing along the road. Kota sat at home and thought about how soon the new year would be. He thought about how Chizuru was celebrating and what she was thinking about. And at that moment she came to his house in a kimono. He said that it suited her very well and the girl was flattered. At this time, her brother was rehearsing inviting Akane to the festival, but it didn't work out. When he sat down to write letters for the new year, the girl began to touch him with her feet. The guy liked it, but it interfered with his work and he asked to stop it. In the end, the girl sat down next to him and began to climb towards him again. Kota couldn't stand it, got up and decided to make tea, but the girl stopped him and they fell to the floor together. Chizuru started to climb towards him again, but the guy was able to get up. He almost convinced her that he should just make tea and they could sit quietly together, but the girl could no longer stop. She took off her kimono and remained in only a swimsuit. To keep the girl from undressing further, he said that he really liked this swimsuit and the fox agreed to keep it. In this form she went to prepare food. As they sat and ate, Kota noticed that it had become very quiet, and then Chizuru suggested a game to him. The guy agreed and she took out a board game. The guy threw the dice and made the first move. He was tasked with giving Chizuru a massage. At first he refused, but the girl said that if he refused, the evil spirits might punish him. But she didn't really want this, so she insisted that he play with her. After the massage, they had many more tasks from the game. In the end, they were given the task of spending time in bed with Chizuru. He decided to skip the move, but the girl had the same task as the guy and she attacked him again. But at that moment Nozomu came and stopped them. Chizuru didn't like this and said that they were just creating a New Year's tradition. Therefore, Nozomu also decided to join them, although she did not have a swimsuit. Kota was not prepared for this and simply invited them to go to the festival and pray at the temple. While they were there, each of the girls prayed that Kota would stay with her, but Kota himself prayed that everything would go well. There they met Taira, who also came to the festival. On the way, they decided to look into the near future, which was written on a piece of paper. But Kota has been unlucky and has problems in relationships with girls. Taira was also unlucky in love and this upset him even more. After that, Akane and other friends came to them. She and Taira had a small quarrel, but on New Year's Day they decided not to quarrel. But Akane, as usual, began to give advice on how to behave with restraint this year and not do anything indecent or bad. Kota decided to bring some wine so everyone could relax. But Akane drank 4 glasses of this drink and her mind became slightly clouded. But even when she was in this state, Taira could not invite her to the festival. But while everyone was having fun, he was able to win her a toy that she thought was cute. At the end of the day, when they left the festival, the guy carried it on his back. Chizuru invited Kota to be alone in his apartment, but everyone wanted to go with them while making sure that nothing happened between them. After all, she is still a spirit and Kota is a person. The girl began to protest and did not allow them to spend the night at her place. Kota was glad for the snow. It brought back memories of his old city. That snow was not uncommon. The girl didn't like snow, but she loved Kota. She could no longer restrain herself and hugged him to her. Suddenly a strong wind blew and a girl appeared in front of them. While Kota went to class, Chizuru went with that spirit. There she said that she was fine and that she would marry Kota. The girl left and left a snow whirlwind behind her. It was a beautiful sight, but now it was quite dangerous to go outside. Snow and severe frost even hit the school, and this has never happened in Japan. Therefore, all students were told not to leave school until they solved the problem. After some time, the school became cold and there was a high risk of frostbite. Somiya was put in a basin to produce musk. After all, she was a frog and musk helps against frostbite. But they didn't succeed, since it's winter now and the frogs are hibernating. The fox told Kota that the girl was responsible for these frosts. While Japan was freezing, the girl created many snowmen and made them her army. Meanwhile, the school was getting colder and colder until the hallways and classrooms were completely covered in ice. Friends were walking along the corridor at that time. They were very cold. And on the way they met a huge snowman, who most likely was sent here by that woman. He didn't let his friends pass, so Toru tried to defeat him. It was quite difficult, but he still succeeded. However, when he called his friends, many snowmen appeared from behind and attacked the guy. At this time, the girls invited the children into the boxes, where it was much warmer than outside. They cooked soup there, but then admitted that the ingredients for it were taken from the trash bin, which the store owner threw out every day. The girls and Kota were able to escape from the snowmen and they locked themselves in some room. They still felt the cold, so they came up with a way to stay warm better than warm clothes. They didn't lie there for long, because that woman came. He began to attack them, but Nozomu was able to take the blow while the girl and boy ran away. They were already outside, but there the guy lost his strength and was very cold. He began to ask Chizuru to run away alone. That woman caught up with them on the street and was surprised at how weak people could be, and she asked Kota to give her all the remaining strength to save them both. He kissed her and the spirit was able to move into Kota, becoming one. This shocked the spirit of cold, but it was time to start the battle long ago. And at that moment the girl said that her mission was completed and she would not fight. Immediately the blizzard and snow stopped and the sun appeared. The girl apologized for her arrogance and said that it was a test of the connection between the spirit of Chizuru and the man Kota. Chizuru's mother told her to do this. Once the check is passed, Chizuru's mother is waiting at home and the woman leaves. Now the students are not in danger and warming has begun again. The snow began to melt a little, but it was still cold. Chizuru and Kota went to visit their mother. The girl was angry even though Kota was next to her, but she didn't like the fact that the others were traveling with them. Upon arrival, I was greeted by Chizuru's mother and her sister. When they arrived, Akane followed Chizuru and Kota everywhere to make sure they didn't do anything. The girl did not have the opportunity to be alone with Kota and this upset her. The guys were surprised that Chizuru was the owner's daughter and joked that later this place would be inherited by her. The girl didn't like all these jokes and apparently she didn't like this place either. She went out into the common room and began to look out the window at the snow. Kota approached her and asked what happened and why she left so suddenly. At that moment, Nozomu approached and invited the guy to go to the bathhouse together. Out of jealousy, Chizuru began to shout at the girl and a quarrel began between them. As a result, none of them could go with him and the young people bathed separately. Kota sat and looked at the mountains. He decided that next time he would call his grandfather here. Suddenly, Mrs. Minamoto came up to him and offered to rub Kota's back while they talked about Chizuru. He was very embarrassed and didn't want it, but the woman convinced him. Chizuru heard their conversation through the wall and immediately rushed to the other side. While she was doing this, the woman began to press herself against the guy. He felt this and began to run away from her. At that moment, Chizuru was already on the territory and the two foxes took on their real appearance. While they were talking, Kota fell straight to the ground from such a sight. They helped him, and in the evening the owners fed their guests. They also waited for Chizuru at dinner, but she didn't come. After that quarrel, she was tied up and locked in a closet. The hostess would then serve a drink that would make the person fall in love for a short period of time with the person they first saw. When the girl came running to everyone, she told the guy not to drink what they were giving him, but it was too late. He had already seen Nozomu and fell in love with her. Like everyone else, they fell in love with each other and this effect could last for quite a long time. When Tora found out about this drink, he immediately poured it for Akane. After a few bucks, she immediately said she felt love. But the first thing she saw was the jug from which the drink was poured for him. Nozomu and Kota tried to be alone, but the fox interfered with them in every possible way wherever they went. One day the guy couldn't stand it anymore and shouted at her to get out and leave him alone. The girl was very hurt by this. He never behaved like this. Out of resentment, she simply ran to her room and cried. Kota and Nozomu were left alone. They were almost truly in love, but at some point the potion wore off. The guy realized what he had done and ran to look for his fox. He found her crying in her room. There he apologized to her and admitted his mistake. The girl asked to become the person she always knew and saw that Kota was still the same. The girl forgave him and hugged him tightly. Already at home, the guy and girls hugged alone. And two girls looked at them from the window. One of them was Kota's sister, and she condemned this fox. When Ren and Ai were hunting in the forest, they almost lost their prey. but then these girls helped them catch the animals. In return, they asked to destroy the offspring of one fox whose lineage should not continue. It was her daughter Chizuru Minamoto. The girls gave them a liquid that the sisters had to mix into the fox's drink or food, and so their mission began. At school, the girls sat at lunch and watched the company. At some point they approached them and joined the discussion. The girls gave Chizuru a treat and, while she was looking away, poured a potion into her drink. When she washed down the treat for them, it seemed bitter to her. A few minutes later the girl became very ill and dizzy. She was taken to the first aid station, and the girl herself did not understand what was happening to her. They lay down on the bed together, and at some point she felt severe pain, which caused her to curl up. The guy lay down on her chest and began to notice how her breasts began to rapidly decrease. This shocked him and he told Chizuru about it. The girl jumped up and touched herself. This scared her no less, and she screamed throughout the school. While she was crying, they began to calm her down and ask her why. But the girl had absolutely no idea what was happening to her. They spoke to Koto alone and he said that he loved her anyway, no matter what, and they will figure out how to return her to her previous breast size. The girl was helped by the guy's motivation, and she decided to look again for a way to enlarge her breasts. She gathered friends to come up with options to enlarge her breasts. Nozomu suggested getting massages regularly, and this interested Chizuru. When there were 3 of them left and the fox took off his shirt, the guy didn't know what to grab onto. Everything was too smooth. Therefore, he could not think of anything better than to start poking at her body. After several attempts to massage her, the girl felt a thirst for intimacy. Afterwards, they measured Chizuru's breast size and noticed a slight increase. But to make it more effective, it was necessary to increase the desire for intimacy. While the girls were trying to do this, they hired mercenaries and opened a portal in the forest. Many spirits came out from there and scattered throughout the forest. The girl was still trying to regain her previous breast size with the help of massages. She tasked her brother with finding her the ingredients, and he took them to the most dangerous places. They did massage for long days, and all this time nurses watched over them. When Tora returned from his trip, he told Akane where he had been and for how long. But she did not appreciate his heroism. In the school kitchen they began to brew a decoction of all the ingredients to enlarge Chizuru's breasts. After all the attempts, we measured the volume again with a tape measure and realized that nothing had changed. This caused Chizuru to despair as she put in a lot of effort to return to her previous size. But the guy again began to support her and said that he would do everything possible to help her. This increased her motivation to continue. The girls watching them were surprised by her efforts. One of them even wanted to stop this mission, but her sister reminded her that this fox was dangerous, so the spirit said. Lisa and Koto decided to go to Mrs. Monomoto's hotel. Those girls continued to monitor this company in order to develop further tactics, but they were declassified and invited to go with them. The girls didn't expect this, but agreed to go. Sitting at the table, they were shy and it was awkward for them to be around them because they were the ones who created problems for the guys. They were fed food that they were allowed to choose for themselves. This made them even more ashamed. In the evening they went home and talked about how delicious the food was for them. When they approached the place where that spirit was with his bodyguard, the sisters immediately shouted that they no longer wanted to take part in this mission. And in this case, the spirit directed magic at them, which knocked the girls out of strength. The spirits no longer needed them. In the morning, all the spirits and strange creatures came to fight with the other spirits who lived in the school, and people were put to sleep because they could not cope in this battle. But because of the elixir that Chizuru drank, she had no strength left and could no longer fight. But the guy himself promised to take her side in any situation. At that moment, a woman, the bodyguard of the spirit, the Koto sisters, burst in. Chizuru told him to run and save himself, but he did not leave the girl. He immediately felt something hot in his chest, and at one moment he gained twice as much strength. In addition, his ears grew and many tails appeared. A battle ensued between the spirits, in which Kota won, although at first even the girl did not believe in his powers. When my sister saw the fight, she realized that she had nothing to fight for anymore because her brother was already an adult. After the fight, the guy woke up on the roof and didn't remember anything. Chizuru sat nearby and her breasts reappeared and her fortitude returned. That day the guys decided to go to the beach, and when it was time to change clothes, the girls went behind the rock to do it there. Everyone changed clothes, except for the she-wolf. She simply bandaged all the places and said that this was her swimsuit. The girls did not appreciate this idea and even Tora came running to their screams. But the girls threw things at him so that he wouldn't look at the she-wolf. In the end, they just forced her to get dressed and went to the beach like that. They were about to go swimming, but suddenly they smelled a pleasant smell from somewhere in the forest. The guys decided to go check it out and went straight through the forest. While they were walking, they already doubted that they would be able to find something here, But at some point they came across a store in another part of the beach. Chizuru's mother came out from there and they were very shocked by her appearance. But in fact, the woman simply worked here too. She immediately invited them to dinner and served them noodles. The company said the food was not tasty at all. She then served Kota a special dish and asked that she be allowed to try it too, but feed it from her own hands. The guy was very confused by this woman's behavior, but he gave her a chance. Every action of the mother made Chizuru angry, and the woman told the boy to feed Chizuru too. After lunch, everyone went swimming and had fun in the water. At this time, Chizuru took out sunscreen and began to smear it on. The girl was uncomfortable lubricating her back, so she asked the guy to do it, which he began to do. At that moment, Nozomu approached them and asked to anoint her too. The fox didn't mind this, but the wolf opened a tube of oil and sprayed a large amount on her friends. And then she came and jumped on them. When the girl stood up, she felt that there was too much cream on her. She got angry at the she-wolf for yet another prank and went into the shower to wash off the excess cream. After this, the girl decided to go back to her mother to eat and drink and think about her affairs. When she arrived, the woman immediately served her drinks and asked her daughter how Kota was doing. But the woman just grinned and said that it was exactly like that and wished them a good rest. The girl came to the beach and noticed that something was wrong. The girl said that Akane was swept into the ocean and now she is in danger. Yuki immediately swam towards her, but Tora also noticed this and rushed to save the girl. He rescued her first, and when she reached the shore, she lay there for some time. All the girls told her about how Tora saved her and how brave he was. At this time, he was chopping wood for a fire, and Akane approached him. She thanked him for saving him and served him a drink, and then offered to eat together. The guy happily agreed, and when it got dark, they all had dinner together by the fire. The atmosphere was calm and cozy, which pleased the guys. And after dinner, Kota and Chizuru went for a walk along the beach. The guy told her that he liked this day and went on vacation with everyone for the first time. On the way to school, the girl asked Kota about his feelings for her, but he couldn't give her the answer she needed. The guy was not ready to answer her then. Tora asked Akane and Chizuru out on a date and Kota thought they could make a good couple. But Chizuru didn't care much about his personal life. She spent the whole day thinking and reflecting on life with Kota. On the roof, he remembered what happened on the beach where the girl was waiting for a confession from him. But at the wrong moment, they were distracted by Toro, which caused Chizuru to get angry and throw a huge rock at him. And the guy himself gathered his strength to tell him everything he thought. The girl did everything she could to push him to take such a decisive step as a declaration of love. She thought and thought a lot about him, but the guy never confessed his love to her. Or at the moments of climax he stammered and could not say anything. In fact, he loves her, but is too shy to say it. He even prepared for this day. But at some point the girl decided to take the most decisive step and thought that this could push Kota to take a bold action. She decided to get as close to him as possible. But at the moment when this almost happened, she began to cry. The guy looked at her and understood that she was waiting for an answer from him. But he began to stutter again and said nothing. The girl was greatly hurt by this and she regarded it as a betrayal. She said she didn't care anymore, then jumped up and ran away. The guy thought a lot about her and didn't know where to look for her now. After classes, he visited many places, but he met her on that bridge in the rain, just like the first time he met. There he apologized to her and shouted that he loved her. He blushed and was embarrassed, but spoke sincerely. The girl was happy and hugged him. She was glad to hear this even now. They were happy to be together again. Summer came and all the children were happy about it. In the morning, Chizuru Minamoto woke up Kota Oyamada. While the guy was walking around the kitchen, the girl was doing gymnastics and invited the guy to do gymnastics with her. But he never joined her. After charging, we decided it was time to cook breakfast. The girl baked scrambled eggs in an unusual form and gave them to the guy. Taira Minamoto noticed her attempts to prepare breakfast. She trained for a long time and spent almost the entire egg to achieve the desired result. Ai Nanao and Ren Nanao were very hungry, sitting in a field and looking at the clouds. Akane Isahina walked through the heat to the library. There, her phone rang, and its sound disturbed people in the library. She turned off the sound and apologized to the visitors. Kuriko Takano was waiting for her friend Sasamori Yuki. It was time for them to go to the cinema. The girl came running and said that she had been sleeping for a long time. She had already chosen the movie and promised that Kuriko would like it. Omi Kiriyama was walking with Miya Asakabe and helping her carry her bags. On the way, they were met by Ikusahara and Rusei Kumada and asked if they were in a relationship. To which the guy replied that the girl simply came to him because she had nowhere to stay. Chizuru and Kota were still at home at this time. The guy was doing physics, and the girl was reading a magazine. She asked if he would eat because she was hungry, and the guy answered in the affirmative. But before lunch, the girl decided to take a shower and told the guy to come in when she was done. When he entered, he saw that the girl was sitting with her legs crossed. She called him and told him to sit next to her. Chizuru prepared unusual noodles that need to be eaten in an unusual way. The girl doused herself with water and put noodles on herself, which spread over her body, and she told him to eat these noodles, which made the guy blush. After several such antics, Kota could not stand it and ran away from the bathroom. But then they went into the forest to catch beetles and eat them. The girl sat on the guy's shoulders and began to take out beetles from the tree. When she took them out, she saw two girls eating bugs on a tree. Then they ran up to the girl and began to say that they were very hungry and began to ask for food. The girl took them home and fed them noodles. Minamoto's mother was at home and gave them a new kimono, which suited both young people very well. The guys sat and had lunch together. Mother said that she should learn to cook deliciously in order to feed Kota deliciously. The girl was offended and the guy began to calm her down and say that she cooks deliciously. Two girls decided to spend the night on the roof since it's summer. Yuki filmed everything, including her friend. Then she noticed a wolf in the window and started filming him too. Taira was getting ready to go somewhere and it was clear that he was worried. Kota and Chizuru were going for a walk in new kimonos and the girl decided to show him her underwear. The guy immediately turned away, but the girl ran up and hugged him. Then the mother entered the room. She was in a kimono, but her feet were bare. The guy arrived at his destination and rehearsed the words of invitation that he wanted to say to the girl. When he entered the library, Akane was surprised to meet him in such a place. He was stalling for time and couldn't invite her. When they left the library, he bought her ice cream and they stood together outside the store. While she was licking the dessert, she noticed that the guy was looking at her. She thought he was up to something obscene, but he didn't think of anything like that. Then the girls came up with a camera and said that, most likely, she had something obscene on her mind. And the girl in the cafe began to defiantly and quickly eat ice cream in the presence of Akane, which irritated her even more. Kota and Chizuru were at that time in a flower field, admiring the beautiful view. Unexpectedly, the girl admitted that she wanted to do something unusual on this field with her boyfriend. He was not prepared for this and at that moment it started to rain. The couple had to run to where they could hide from him. There the girl began to take off her wet clothes so as not to catch a cold and forced the guy to do the same. They sat at opposite ends of the room and Chizuru decided to move towards Kota since it was cold. But the guy didn't want intimacy and ran around the room from her. At some point they got confused and the girl fell on the guy, which confused him very much. She began to hint at intimacy and really wanted it, but the guy was not ready for this. But then the rain stopped and we were able to return back. Taira was never able to invite Akane to watch the evening fireworks, although even his friends tried to persuade him to invite her. In the end, he just called her and invited her to go watch the fireworks that evening. They were very shy when left alone. Friends were already waiting for them on the roof to watch the fireworks together. At this time, Kota and Chizuru also came to watch the fireworks. A girl joined them and began to pester the guy. Chizuru didn't like this, she became jealous and a quarrel began. Taira tried in every possible way to show the girl signs of attention, but embarrassment and uncertainty stopped him.